I'm back again, and today actually we're gonna build up on what we have taken last time. So who can remind me what we took last time? We said like last time we took about trying to understand the concept of a research problem and how that things is actually related. Research problem, how can we formulate a research question, hypothesis, objective out from a research problem. So that's what we have taken last time. What we are going to take today is basically we're going to build on what we have started last lecture, which is basically we're going to learn about a research method, literature review, and we're going to have a little exercise practicing and doing some little googling to understand the concept. So what is a scientific method basically, and how a scientific method is useful to do your research? Let me start with this. If we use the example of COVID-19 and if we say like COVID-19 as a research topic, whether COVID-19 have any positive impact on the air pollution, air quality, for example, air quality is, and we can ask this research question, is COVID-19 have a positive impact on reducing the air pollution in Muscat or not? This is a research question, right? We don't know the answer for this question. Now, what would be our hypothesis? Is it going to improve the quality of the air or not? And how? Can somebody think about it? Can somebody help me to think about how COVID-19 can have a positive impact on improving the air quality?
Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
I think that since the COVID-19 have begun, there is lots of campaigns about staying home. So nobody's using their cars, so the carbon are not released to the air, and everybody can sit in home without using any petrol or gas for traveling.
Excellent.
And also airplanes. There is no airplanes.
Excellent.
Yes, that's everything.
I'm clubbing. Excellent thought. So this is actually, now we can ask the research problem is not, it's not necessary to be a problem, but we can say a research topic is better than saying a research problem, because as some of your colleagues have sent in the email, some of the topics are not really a problem. They are just topics, like something that might have positive impact, not necessarily a problem. For example, the example of like drinking tea, whether is drinking green tea is going to like lead to weight loss. This is not a problem. This is something you want to investigate whether it's true or not, or how that things happen. So let's say a research topic. So if the research topic here in our case now is COVID-19, the impact of COVID-19 on air quality, our question will be, is COVID-19 causing any positive impact on improving the air quality? The hypothesis, it can be yes. The hypothesis, we expect that COVID-19 improve the air quality in Muscat, reduce the air pollution in Muscat because of the lockdown. No cars are going around, no industries, no airplane. So all the emissions from all of these sources will be less, and therefore we expect that it might have, see the word expect as a hypothesis, it might have a less, or it will improve the air quality in Muscat because it lowers the emission. This is our hypothesis. Now, to do this and to do all of this research, we have to go through a process called the scientific method. We started by observation. We investigated, or we identified a research topic, and then we asked a question. Then we stated a hypothesis. But now, to be able to answer this research question, we have to do something. We have to do methodology, we have to do experiments, for example. We have to do something that will tell us whether our hypothesis is valid or not, and it will answer the question. All of this process is called scientific method. So basically, a scientific method is a technique that helps us to investigate a problem. In our case, for example, investigate or study a research problem, acquire new knowledge, because by doing all of these processes, we can build up on our knowledge and we can become more knowledgeable, because once we answer that question, we gain knowledge. Or correcting or integrating previous knowledge. The research method, or this research method, can also help us to correct a thought that we have, or correct, let's say, correct, for example, a study or a previous data that has been published, and corrected whether it is correct or not. For example, if we talk about, let's say, the green tea, some of the studies which had been done said that green tea can reduce weight of can reduce the weight. But there are some studies also that has been done to validate these things and to judge whether these findings are correct or not. And what they have found, that if you just drink green tea as a tea bag, then it might not lead to like a significant improvement of losing weight. But you need to drink a concentrated tea, which is not the tea bag. So you see, from this research, you come up with a conclusion that correcting the previous research and the previous study. So by having this research methodology, we can gain all of these three different things. And basically, the research methodology and all of these processes can be applied by collecting observable, empirical, and measurable evidence. In a shortcut, we are collecting evidences that will help us to answer the research question and to validate whether our hypothesis and our thought or our expectation is correct or wrong. Observable, maybe it is something that we just observe. We go into the field and we observe, investigate by our eyes or record it. Empirical, this is something daqiq, that you will do it and you will collect data. And measurable is also something very accurate, by which you measure the things. For example, if we talk about the cases of COVID-19 improving the air quality, you would go and you put your device in the street, and then you measure the air quality. You measure the concentration of the pollutant in the air, and you compare it with the situation before the COVID-19. And you can judge whether the COVID-19 lockdown improved the air quality or not. So that's how the gathering is, basically. And at the end of the day, it can help us, as I said, to formulate and to test the hypothesis, meaning that by collecting all of these data and by doing all of these methods, at the end of the day, we'll answer the research question and we will validate the hypothesis, whether it's correct or wrong, whether our expectation is right or wrong. Now, do you have any question about this one? Any question? Maybe let's check the chat.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Should the hypothesis always be correct?
Not really. I'm recording the lecture, by the way. Who was asking? Sorry. So, yeah, Az-Zahra, I'm actually recording the lecture. So again, to you, the hypothesis is not necessary to be correct, because our research helps us to understand whether the hypothesis is correct or wrong. So sometimes you can do research, like let's say you are expecting that COVID-19 improves the air quality, but at the end of the day, the measurement that you take and the evidence that you collect will tell you at the end of the day that it is not really improving the air quality. So by this, you can judge whether you are improving or not. But you see, like what I mean here, that the research process and all what you are doing will help you to answer the research question and will help you to validate whether your hypothesis is correct or wrong. Is that clear?
Yes.
Excellent. So shall we continue? Okay, then we continue. Then there are actually some considerations, that things you have to keep in mind when you want to select a research problem or a research topic. Let me use a research topic than research problem. First of all, let's say that me, actually, like, I have a background in soil science and in water, and this is my specialization. And now I want to investigate the issues of COVID-19. Now I would ask you a question. Will I be the right person to study about COVID-19? Impact on air quality? How do you think? What do you think? Uh, will I be the best person to study about impact of COVID-19 on air quality? Yes or no, and why do you think, guys? I'm giving you hints.
Mister, I don't think.
Why?
Because you're not specialized in health or COVID-19.
Exactly.
Also not specialized in
air quality.
or ecosystem. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So if you want to study a problem and if you want to investigate something, then you must have the knowledge and the expertise. If you want to study something that is related to marine biology or the biodiversity of marine lives, then you have to have the background of marine and the biology. Like, for example, a mathematician cannot go and study that, or somebody on medical cannot investigate something that is related to the biodiversity, because simply he is not equipped with the knowledge and the expertise to do this kind of research. So this is very important, that when you select a topic, even for your project, you must select a topic that is related, let's say, to your specialization, something where whenever you read about it, whenever you find anything or you ask about it, you have the expertise and you have the basics, so you can go with it. Another very important thing is the interest and the relevance. The interest, you must be doing something that you really like. You cannot be doing something you don't like, because at the end of the day, if you don't have the passion, then you will not have the drive and the motivations to do that kind of work. It's like you will be like dragging yourself to do it. You know, have you heard about those people who are, for example, like working in a work that they don't like? What would happen to them in the early morning? They don't wake up easily. And when they wake up, always, oh, what is this? I don't want to go. And he start like cursing the job, remembering all the negative things, because simply he does not like it. But if you like it, you would have that drive and motivation to do it. Yes, I have to do it. I have to do it because I love it. And the availability of data, another very important thing. You cannot do research for something that you don't have any knowledge about it or any data about it. Let's say you cannot investigate, for example, something that depends on data and you don't have the data about it at all. Example of that, I mean, let's say you want to study the impact of, let's say something related to data and availability of data. Yeah, you want to, for example, study, let's say let's say something that is related to data in Oman. Okay, you want to study about a particular pollutant, and you depend actually on the data that is collected. So let's say you want to study about benzene. It's one of the pollutant that exists in air, and it has a lot of negative impacts on health. And the research you want to do is basically to collect these data about benzene, and then you want to analyze it, whether the concentration of benzene over, let's say, 50 years is increasing or decreasing in Oman. Assume that you went to the websites, you went to the ministries, you ask them about this data, and they tell you, we don't have data for 50 years. We only have data for 5 years. Then what you're going to do? You are in 2020 and you have data just up to 2015. Can you do a research for 50 years with a 50 years data in this case? Can you do it? Can you or not? Not, right? Because you don't have the data. You only have data for 5 years. You'd have data from 2015 till 2020 and you cannot collect data because you are in 2020. You cannot wait till 50 years to collect data. So the availability of data is another very important thing that actually restrict your research. Another issue like the ethical and the social issues. Let me give you an example of a social issue. Let's assume you are actually, or you want to study, for example, the income of people. How the income of people is affecting actually their, let's say, their knowledge. This is an example, whether it's like making it positive or negative. So then income demand, yes. Then when you go actually to the people and you distribute a questionnaire to them, and then you ask them the question, what is your income? Do you think that people would tell you the right income in Oman?
No.
Why they don't tell you?
Maybe because they will feel like embarrassed.
And this is something like private for them, right?
Yes.
So there are also some things like this which you have to think about it before designing your research. So instead of asking them their exact income, how you deal with it, you can ask them for a rate. You can put multiple choices and you tell them like select, is your income between 200, let's say 100 to 500, from 500 to 1000, 500, 1000 to 1500 and so on. By doing this, then you can actually get the information which is reasonable and people are okay to say that one. Another thing, maybe another question is basically the family size. The family size. When you go and ask people how many children you have, some of the families would not tell you the exact number of children because they feel that why should I tell you this information and so on and so on and so on. So there are some questions that you should not ask because socially people would not like it and you will get issues and you will get embarrassed by doing or asking these things. Other issues like ethical issues, for example, let's say about animal right, for example. One thing like the animal. You have to get, for example, a permission if you want to study about animal and like you want to like, for example, يعني تسوي لهم تشريح وكذا وهذه الأشياء. You have to get ethical approved to do that. حتى شيء ثاني مثلا, even if you are distributing questionnaires to people, you have to get ethical approved. ethical approved معناته بأنه لازم توضحوا للناس بأنه المعلومات اللي تعطونا إياهن راح نستخدمهن فقط لهدف البحث وما راح نستخدمهن لشيء ثاني. ما قال لكم لاحظتوا كذا مثلا في الاستبانات يقولوا وفعلا يعني الناس ما يقدروا يستخدموا، او هذول الريسيرشرز ما يقدروا يستخدموا هذه البيانات لاهداف ثانيه. اذا استخدموها في محاكمات عليهم ممكن تروح. You can sue them. وش تسوي بعض الشركات مثلا مثل جوجل، بعض الشركات الثانيه مرات بعض الشركات تسالكم معلومات وبعدين هذه المعلومات ممكن يستخدموها للماركتينج. يعني مثلا يبيعوا المعلومات مالكم لشركات ثانيه وممكن هذه الشركات بعدين تتواصل معاكم وترسلكم اعلانات وغيرها من الاشياء. فلازم يعني they should not like there will be some issues that you don't violate these ethical things. إذا كان الناس يوقعوا ويقولوا okay I don't mind if you use my information, then you are as a researcher you can use it as you like. But if people say no, you cannot use my information for marketing, or you cannot take a picture for me and you post it, then you have to follow that ethical things. You cannot do it because ethically it is not acceptable. Let me check if somebody asked a question on the chat. Okay, so just answers. Let's carry on. Is this point clear? The consideration for your research?
Yes, Doctor.
Great. هناك في حاجة, another very important thing is basically the purpose of a researcher. You as a researcher is considered as a very important person in the world. Why? Because you as the researcher is the one who is going to solve the world's problem. You will be the person who would be able to identify the problem and formulate this problem into a research question, into hypotheses and objectives. And then you will be the one who will do the research, analyze the findings and the data that you collect, and come to people and the decision makers with a conclusion that this one have a positive impact, this one have a negative impact, and so on and so on. I can give you an example of the current situation of COVID-19. Now we are talking about vaccines. اللي هي الحين الvaccines. Everybody is waiting for the vaccines. But there are a lot of questions asking like whether these vaccines gonna have a negative impact on people, what kind of negative impact, and so on and so on and so on. Who is the one going to investigate all of these questions? Is you guys, the researchers. Depending on your specialization, the researchers are the one who are going to investigate and to answer these questions. The other people and the decision makers depend 100% on them. So that's why you are a very important person. And a very important thing for you as a researcher, you always have to ask yourself a question: why I'm doing this, and how I'm going to do it, and what I'm going to do. If you select a specific topic that you want to investigate, you should always ask yourself these questions, because by asking yourself these questions, then it will be a clear path for you, what exactly you're supposed to do, how you are going to do it, and when are you going to accomplish it, so you can answer and reach the goal of your research in a manageable time. Now, there are some other things that you have to understand. For example, is sub problems. They are something like, I'll give you an example. What is a sub-problem? Example that you want to investigate the impact of smoking, the impact on cigarette on the human body, on human health, you say. Now, human health actually can consist of different components. It can be the lung, for example, and you want to investigate the impact on the lung cancer. It can be the throat. It can be stomach, it can be any other part of the body. So what is a sub-problem? You are actually splitting your research to small different problems, to sub-problems. But each one of these problems should be complete and become a researchable unit. By mean that when you study, for example, the effect of smoking on health, you can say, I'm studying the effect of smoking on the lung, for example. And then you will spend all your research investigating the impact of smoking on the lung, which is a complete now. You are focusing on the lung. Or you can focus on the throat, and you can focus on so many other things. But you see now, like by splitting it into subunits, it does not affect it, because now you become more focused to do this. You can apply the same concept to any other topic. When we talk, for example, about the impact of COVID-19 on improving the air quality in Muscat, this is still can be a little bit general. And by doing this research, you might investigate different types of pollutant, different gases. You can be very specific, and you can say, what is the impact of COVID-19 lockdown on improving or reducing the levels of, let's say, the levels of lead in air, or the levels of benzene on air. So you are focusing on one particular things, and by doing this one, you become specific and you become more focused. Okay? Now, how do you do research? The first step to do is actually to have a background, is to know what is the current level about that particular knowledge. And this is basically is called the literature review. So a literature review basically is a reporting. You are going to see what other people have done and published. If somebody did a study, he would actually write about that study, like write a report or like a paper, a scientific paper, and then that scientific paper will be posted online or posted somewhere. It will be posted online. And by posting it online, you can see what is the current knowledge. You will go to Google, you will type that particular topic, and you would find what other people have done so far in that particular topic. And this is called basically literature review. So by doing the literature review, you would be able actually to search. You are going to search in order to help you to understand what is the current level that other people done. So the review can help you to tackle the problem. It can give you similar investigation. For example, you want to study what is the impact of smoking on lung on health, particularly the lung. So you type this one and you search what other problem have found. And then by doing your research, maybe you want to just validate, by your research, you want to validate what other people found. Or maybe you want to focus on something very important now becomes, for example, the cancer. But by searching and reviewing, you will understand what other people have done. Sometime by searching, you can collect data. When we ask the question, what is, for example, if I want the data for, let's say, for the income, or let's say for family sizes in Oman, then you can go to the websites of government which have data. So by doing your search, you can collect these data, you use existing data, and you analyze it to answer your question. You can also identify expertise, get some ideas, or you can evaluate actually your research, whether what you are going to do is going to be beneficial, is going to add knowledge, or you will be repeating other people. Or also it can help you to say whether your research finding is reasonable, or it is something that is weird, completely different, is not going into a similar trend. Let's say you want to study the impact of smoking on cancer, lung cancer, in Omani patient, then I don't think it will be so much different than the people or the researcher who have done the same topic but on, for example, American patients. There might be some differences because of other factors, but almost you might find similar findings. So the research helps you to evaluate your research ideas. Now,